You think she's just going through something, that things will get better if you give it more time. But the truth is, the signs have been there for months, and you've been translating them into hope instead of reading them as information. That is the thing nobody wants to say to you directly. So, I will. Most men are not oblivious because they're stupid. They're oblivious because they're invested. Because when you have poured your time, your energy, your emotion, your future plans into another human being, your brain will perform extraordinary mental gymnastics to protect that investment. You will rationalize. You will minimize. You will explain away behaviors that, if a friend described them to you about his relationship, you would immediately recognize as red flags. But because it's yours, because it's her, because leaving means admitting that something you chose was wrong, you stay. You interpret silence as tiredness. You interpret distance as stress. You interpret coldness as a phase. And while you are busy translating, she is busy deciding, and the decision she is quietly making has nothing to do with giving you more time. Here's what it really means when a woman shows you the signs that 99% of men ignore. Here is what is actually happening beneath the surface of the behaviors you've been excusing. Here is the psychology, the reality, the hard and clarifying truth that most creators won't give you because it makes people uncomfortable, and uncomfortable people don't share content. But uncomfortable people who finally get clarity, they change their lives, and that is the only thing I care about here. Before I go further, if you are watching this and you recognize yourself in what I'm describing, subscribe right now. Not because I need the numbers, because you need the reminders, because the clarity I'm about to give you is the kind that fades when you walk back into the relationship and she smiles at you and suddenly everything feels fine again. You need this channel in your feed. You need this voice on the days when you are about to talk yourself out of what you already know. Subscribe. Hit the bell. This is for you, not for me. Now let's get into it. The misconception is this. You believe that love, when it fades, fades loudly. You believe that when a woman stops loving you, there will be a conversation, a confession, a moment of undeniable clarity where she looks you in the eye and tells you the truth. You have been waiting for that moment. You have been operating as though the relationship is fine until that moment arrives. That is the misconception, and it is costing you years. Here is the hard truth. Women do not typically fall out of love suddenly and announce it. They fall out of love slowly, quietly, in a series of small emotional withdrawals that happen so gradually that by the time you notice the distance, she has already emotionally left the building. She has already grieved the relationship. She has already had the internal conversation, reached the internal conclusion, and moved into a psychological space where she is simply waiting. Waiting for the right moment, waiting for something to confirm her decision, or simply waiting because leaving is logistically complicated. But emotionally, she is already gone, and you are still there, still trying, still hoping, still reading her silence as a puzzle you can solve if you just find the right piece. That is called loving a ghost. And you cannot hold a ghost. You cannot fix a ghost. You cannot outlove a ghost back into the room. The first sign is the disappearance of small intimacies. Not the big ones, not the dramatic ones, the small ones. The casual touch on your arm when she walks past you. The way she used to lean into you without thinking about it. The spontaneous kiss that had no agenda behind it. The moment she used to reach for your hand, not because it was romantic, but because you were hers and she wanted contact. Those small, thoughtless, automatic intimacies are the truest measure of how a woman feels about you. They don't lie. They can't be performed for long. And when they start disappearing, not because she's tired, not because life is busy, but as a pattern, as a new normal, that is her nervous system telling you what her words have not yet said. You noticed. You told yourself it was nothing. That is the mistake. The second sign is that she stops bringing you into her future. Think about the early days. She used to talk about next summer, about that trip you two would take, about the apartment you'd eventually get together, about the names she thought were beautiful. She brought you into her imagination of what was coming. She installed you in her vision of her own life. Now think about the last 3 months. When was the last time she talked about the future with you in it? When was the last time she made a plan that assumed your presence 6 months from now? When was the last time she said "we" about something that hadn't happened yet? If you are struggling to remember, it is not because she forgot. It is because you have been quietly removed from her future. Not with scissors and a speech, with silence and drift. That's called emotional disinvestment. And it is one of the clearest signals in female psychology that the relationship is no longer where she is placing her hope. The third sign is that conflict stops feeling like conflict. In a relationship where love is alive, arguments have heat. Not because fighting is healthy, but because people fight for things they care about losing. When she used to argue with you, when she used to get frustrated and push back and demand better, that was engagement. That was her still in the game, still invested enough to try to change the outcome. When a woman stops arguing, when disagreements are met with a flat, detached calm, when she shrugs at things that used to matter to her, when she says fine and means nothing by it, that is not peace. That is emotional withdrawal. That is a woman who has decided that the outcome of this particular battle no longer affects her in a way worth fighting for. You stop being someone she argues with. You start being someone she tolerates. And tolerance is not love. Tolerance is the waiting room before the exit. The fourth sign is the phone. I will say it plainly. When a woman is emotionally connected to you, you are not in competition with her phone. You are more interesting than her phone. You are more present, more engaging, more real than anything on that screen. When she is with you and she is scrolling, not occasionally, not once in a while, but habitually, as a default, as the thing she reaches for instead of reaching for you, she is telling you something. She is telling you that the world inside that screen is more emotionally stimulating than the world sitting across from her. That is not about the phone. The phone is just the symptom. The real diagnosis is that you have become background noise in your own relationship. The fifth sign is that your wins stop landing. Early in a relationship, when a woman loves you, she celebrates you, not performatively, genuinely. She lights up when good things happen to you. She brags about you to her friends. She is proud of you in a way that is visible and unsolicited. She is on your team in the most fundamental sense. Now think about the last time you shared something you were genuinely excited about. A promotion, a goal you hit, something you built. Think about her response. Was it warm? Was it interested? Was it proud? Or was it brief, distracted, and quickly moved past? A woman who loves you cannot contain her pride in you. It spills out. It's involuntary. When that goes quiet, when your victories are received like routine updates rather than moments of shared joy, she has stepped off your team. She is no longer playing the same game. Now let's talk about why this happens. Not to assign blame, not to excuse it, but to understand it. Because understanding it is the only thing that gives you any real power in response to it. Women, like all human beings, fall out of love in direct proportion to how safe it feels to do so. And the most dangerous thing a man can do in a relationship is make himself so adjustable, so endlessly accommodating, so devoid of edges and standards and unpredictability that the woman he is with slowly loses the feeling that she is with someone. She begins to feel like she is in charge of something rather than partnered with someone. She stops feeling the presence of a man and starts feeling the weight of a dynamic where she leads and he follows, where she decides and he agrees, where she withdraws and he pursues. And in that dynamic, attraction cannot survive. Not because she is cruel, but because attraction is fundamentally incompatible with the feeling that you are completely in control of another person's emotional state. That's called losing your frame, and it is the quiet killer of more relationships than infidelity ever was. You lost your frame because you were afraid. Afraid that if you held your ground, she would leave. Afraid that if you said no, she would pull away. Afraid that your real opinions, your real standards, your real self would be too much or not enough. So you softened, you adjusted, you gave and gave and gave until giving was all you knew how to do in this relationship. And the devastating irony is that the more you gave, the less she wanted. Not because she was ungrateful, but because what she needed was never more of your giving. What she needed was more of your presence, your realness, your willingness to be a whole self-determined man who did not require her approval to know his own worth. And that man went quiet a long time ago. Now let me describe the man who does not end up in this position. The man whose relationship does not slowly dissolve while he stands there holding explanations like a bouquet nobody asked for. This man knows the difference between loving someone and losing himself in someone. He is warm. He is genuinely caring. He shows up, but he does not disappear into a relationship like a man stepping into quicksand. He maintains the things that make him him: his friendships, his ambitions, his opinions, his time, his solitude, his standards. Not because he is withholding, but because a man without those things is not a partner, he is a project, and nobody stays in love with their project. This man reads behavior and not words. When there is a gap between what she says and what she does, he trusts the behavior every single time, not because he is suspicious, because he is honest. Because he knows that actions are the only language that cannot be edited in real time for the sake of comfort. When the actions tell him something, he does not run from it, he sits with it, he names it. And then he responds from a place of self-respect rather than from a place of fear. This man has a line, not a wall, a line. There are things he will not accept, not because he read them in a list somewhere, but because he knows who he is well enough to know what degrades him. And when those things appear, he does not explode. He does not punish. He does not give a speech. He simply and clearly communicates his position and then holds it. With calm, with certainty, with the kind of quiet authority that only comes from a man who has decided his self-respect is non-negotiable. He does not beg for love. He does not perform for love. He does not shrink himself to a size that fits into the space someone else allows him. He is the space. And the right woman does not want to resize him. She wants to stand in that space and feel what it is to be genuinely, solidly held. Now here is what you do. Right now, not in theory, not eventually. Stop explaining your worth to someone whose actions have already told you their assessment. Every time you make the case for why you are a good partner to a woman who is showing you she has emotionally left, you are not fighting for love. You are auditing yourself for someone who has already closed the books. Stop it. Stop accepting comfort over clarity. The next time she gives you the warm smile after 3 days of cold distance, do not let that warmth make you forget what the 3 days felt like. Both things are true, the warmth and the pattern. Stop allowing moments of warmth to erase the evidence of a pattern. Look at the last 90 days, not the last 90 minutes. This is the most important perceptual shift you can make. Love does not live in moments. It lives in patterns. Look at the pattern. Is she moving toward you or away from you over time? Is the intimacy increasing or decreasing over time? Are you more known and more chosen with every passing week? Or are you more tolerated and more background? The pattern tells you everything. The moment tells you almost nothing. Have the conversation, not the conversation where you ask if everything is okay and accept "I'm just stressed" as an answer. The real conversation, the one where you say clearly and without aggression that you have noticed a distance and you want to understand what it means. And then you listen not for reassurance, but for honesty. You hold the space for the hard answer, because the hard answer, as devastating as it might feel in the moment, is the only thing that sets you free. And if the hard answer comes, if she confirms what the signs have been telling you, you do not collapse. You do not bargain. You do not promise to change in 17 ways if she will just stay. You stand up straight. You thank the clarity. And you walk forward. Not dramatically, not with a speech, just forward. Because a man who knows his worth does not negotiate for a seat at a table that was already being cleared. You are not someone to be endured. You are not someone to be kept around until something better arrives. You are not a backup, a placeholder, or a soft place for someone to land while they figure out what they actually want. You are the answer, not the question, not the maybe, the answer. And the right person does not need convincing. They need only to see you clearly to know that walking away from you would be the most expensive mistake they ever made. But you cannot be that man while you are folded in half trying to fit into a space that was not built for you. Stand up. Take up the space you are owed. Be the version of yourself that needs no translation, no apology, and no second chance to prove his value. If this hit you somewhere real today, if something in this script landed in a place you have been avoiding, subscribe right now. Come back when you are doubting yourself. Come back when you are rationalizing again. Come back when you need someone to remind you that clarity is not cruelty, and that walking away from something that is already gone is not giving up. It is growing up. There are men in this community right now who have made exactly that choice. Men who stopped accepting breadcrumbs and started building tables. Men who chose themselves not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. You belong with them. Get in. Stay in. We are doing this work together, And there is nothing soft about the kind of strength it takes to see the truth and choose it anyway. Total approximate word count: 2,600 words.